No one in Bravo Command expected the room to go silent that morning. Not over her. She was just the radio tech. The one people walked past without noticing, but when the SEAL captain saluted her, the woman everyone underestimated, every soldier in that crowded tent froze as if time itself forgot how to move. What they didn't know was that this salute had been earned long before the moment it stunned the entire base. The girl behind the wires. The desert sun had already turned the outpost into an oven, and inside the command tent the air smelled of dust, sweat, and burnt circuitry. Second Lieutenant Alina Karim sat hunched over a disassembled radio console, wires spread like veins across the metal table. She wiped her forehead with the back of her hand, leaving a streak of grease across her temple. People didn't come to her unless something was broken. And things always broke. Soldiers rushed past her, maps rustled, orders barked. She was in the heart of the operation but felt like a ghost walking through it. Most soldiers called her Cable Girl or Spark Plug. Only a few even remembered her rank. Alina didn't complain. She had learned from childhood that the world rarely listened to quiet people. Her father, a radio operator in a small mountain village, had taught her that saving lives didn't always require being loud. Sometimes it just required connection. That morning, the outpost was preparing for a high-risk joint mission with a Navy SEAL team. Everyone seemed tense except Alina. She had been dealing with broken systems all night, barely sleeping. She leaned into the radio, tightening one last screw when a voice behind her said, "Lieutenant, how many times are you going to save our backs?" Captain Rourke, tall, battle-scarred, and known for a stare sharp enough to cut steel, stood before her. The legendary SEAL commander. Soldiers straightened when he entered a room. Some even held their breath. But Alina barely looked up. "Depends," she muttered, "or how many times you all break this thing." A few soldiers nearby exchanged looks. No one talked to Captain Rourke like that, but Rourke smiled. Then the hum of the radio came alive, clear, strong, operational. The tent exhaled in relief. Just then, an explosion rumbled in the distance. The enemy testing their range again. Voices rose, commanders hurried to their stations, tension snapped through the air like an electric whip. "Lieutenant Karim," Rourke said, his voice suddenly serious, "you just made this mission possible." But before she could respond, a sergeant yelled from across the room, "Captain in the room." Every soldier in the tent snapped to attention. Alina didn't move. She was still checking frequency stability, her fingers flying over knobs and buttons. She didn't notice Rourke step closer. Didn't notice every eye turning toward her. Didn't notice the silence. Until she looked up and saw Captain Rourke standing rigid tall, sharp saluting her. For 3 seconds the entire command post froze. Then everything changed. When respect becomes a weapon after the salute, whispers spread through the outpost like wildfire. Why her? She's just a tech. What did she do to earn that? Alina felt the air shift around her, charged with a new kind of attention. One she didn't want. She had always preferred to work unnoticed, in the dim corners behind machines that didn't judge. But Rourke wasn't done. He approached her later that day away from the crowd. "You saved 100 men today," he said quietly. "You restored the uplink that gives us air cover. You kept us alive." Alina tried to brush it off. "It's my job." "No," he replied. "It's your gift." There was something raw in his tone. Respect, yes, but something else too. A recognition. As if he'd once been underestimated the same way. Hours later, the mission went sideways. The SEAL squad lost comms deep inside enemy territory. Panic rippled through the command center. Without radio contact, extraction was impossible. Lives were minutes away from being lost. Everyone turned to Alina. Her hands trembled as she worked, not from fear, but from the weight of responsibility she had carried her whole life in silence. She rerouted circuits, boosted signal, climbed onto the roof under fire to reposition the antenna. Bullets cracked in the distance. Dust sliced her face, but she kept working, remembering her father's voice. Where there is connection, there is hope. Inside, commanders shouted updates. Rourke's team was pinned. The extraction point was shifting. Everything depended on whether Alina could make the radio sing again. Finally, a spark, a tone, a signal. "Bravo 1, do you copy?" she whispered into the mic. Static, more static. Then, copy, loud and clear. Cheers erupted inside the tent. Maps slammed down, orders flew, helicopters launched. Alina collapsed into her chair, shaking with exhaustion and relief. Minutes later, the seals were safe. When Rourke returned, bruised but alive, he stood before her again, eyes shining with something deeper than gratitude. "This outpost," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "stands because of Lieutenant Karim." The room that once ignored her now honored her. The girl behind the wires became the woman who carried an entire mission on her back. And for the first time, Alina let herself believe she wasn't invisible. She mattered,